Hi, my name is Stephanie Yates-anyabwile. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. Today, I'm going to be reacting to a video by Jubilee called Should I Forgive My Mother? She's Dying. Let's jump in.
Do I mend my broken relationship with my abusive mother?
When you have an abusive person in your life, it's really, really hard to keep amends with them. So I think it does depend too, like, have you tried before? Like what is the situation like? Yeah.
My mom has terminal brain cancer. I feel like I'm running out of time.
If that changed your decision, you guys are welcome to switch sides.
I actually did experience that. My mother did pass of cancer, and I did not have a good relationship with her the majority of my life. I did not give her very long, but at least the last few years that we did have, we were able to have open conversations and me hear her perspective for the first time ever. And it gave me a very different view on things because as parents, I am a mother of 5. We do the best we can with what we have at the moment. To know I loved her, I knew she loved me, completely changed everything when she did pass on, which was 10 years ago.
I think the factor for me, we have this mystery person giving us very simplistic 1 or 2 sentence statements. The thing that matters to me and why I would probably start leaning more toward yes is when she says, I feel like I'm running out of time. That is her feeling, right? So time is something we just can't get back. So to me, that means she's in a contemplative stage. She's not decided against forgiving her mother, obviously, or she wouldn't be doing this experiment. But for her to feel that pressure that she's running out of time, that's an internal conviction. When I'm working with the client, that's what I'm trying to find out. What are their internal convictions? I don't want to go based on whatever religion they were raised in. I don't want to go based on whatever pressures they're feeling from friends or family. I don't want to go based on what society says is the right thing to do. I want to know, what are your personal convictions? What's making you feel ashamed or guilty or anxious, keeping you up at night? Because that's the only way that we can make choices that are in alignment with the things that matter to you the most. So for her to say, I feel like I'm running out of time, that's where I would say, okay, hold up. How would you feel if you were to just completely run out of time? And that'll give us a lot of insight into what matters most to her.
I was raised in a cult-like religious community where my abuse occurred. Due to my mother's religious conditioning, she swept my abuse under the rug.
It's difficult being in a cult, just thinking of being brainwashed, and that could have affected her mom. And maybe the cult was like encouraging to act like it didn't happen.
When parents show stress around a child, that kid will like pick up on the stress, and maybe this was her attempt to maybe make it not hurt as bad, and like it's not the right thing to do, but maybe this was kind of her way of dealing with it.
I would just like to add though, attempting to mend the relationship does not excuse the behavior.
Definitely. Right.
It's more about understanding the context and trying to seek closure for yourself.
Exactly.
In her case,
So much richness in that section. In their why, none of them changed from yes to no after finding out that the mother had been a part of a cult. First of all, we have to keep in mind that the word cult is a subjective word. There are organizations or communities of people where the outside world would say they're a cult and they would say we're not a cult. So keep in mind that I think these words are being said by this mystery person. So from her perspective, her mother was a part of a cult. I'd be curious to know if the mother feels like she was a part of the cult, right? If she's looking back and reflecting and saying, wow, I was a part of a cult organization, then her own thoughts on her behavior might have changed as well. So I think that even in sharing that, she is giving plausible reasoning for her mother's behavior. And again, that's the type of thing as a therapist you want to pay attention to. Is your client justifying their abuse, or are they exonerating the abuser? And there is a difference. So when you are using a model of family therapy that we call contextual family therapy, one of the things we talk about are ledgers. So we all walk around with a sense of what we're owed, what we've given, even if we don't admit it. You think about the sacrifices you've made for people around you, and you will question, am I depleted? Are people investing in me as well, right? And when we talk about the process of exoneration, we're talking about looking at our parents or primary caregivers and understanding what influenced the choices that they made, where we might feel like, hey, I had to sacrifice X of my childhood because of your behaviors, and starting to understand the why, right? And starting to build towards the process, maybe not even of forgiveness, but of understanding. I love what he said about mending a relationship, not justifying the behavior. What he's describing is what we call like externalizing a behavior. If you are in a relationship, for example, and your partner smokes cigarettes and you want them to stop smoking because maybe it's creating issues with your physical intimacy, for example, or maybe you look at them differently because this is an addiction they haven't been able to address. And you start looking at it as a team and saying, the issue is smoking, not the issue is that my partner smokes. When you can externalize the behavior, it does make it easier at times to address that behavior and work on it as a team. In this situation, she's not necessarily a teammate with her mother, but what she's trying to do is externalize her mother's behaviors in a way that maybe she can make sense of it without holding that anger against her mother. She can hold anger at the behavior and not against her mother. It's a very complex concept, but through therapy, we've seen it very successful for people who want to be able to make that distinction.
A pastor of my church coerced and groomed me. He was married, I babysat his children. My abuse caused me to lose my community. When I had gotten strong enough to potentially try and bring it to light, my mom did have evidence of the abuse, and she chose to destroy it.
How many times have you tried to mend this relationship?
Probably for my whole life. My last contact with her was in April.
I really find it interesting that no one moved over to know once they found out how purposeful that action was. Because there is a difference, not saying either is right, but there is a difference between being the person who conducted abuse, witnessing abuse and doing nothing about it, but in this case, to have proof of the abuse and purposefully protect the abuser, I think is a very different thing. But again, that's based on my personal convictions. And you have to be very careful about that bias when you're working with the client, because their values may not align with the therapist's values. And if this client is at a place where they are open to forgiving someone who even purposefully put them in a compromising position, it's my job to work with them and help them figure out the best way to do that and make sure that they're confident that this is the right choice for them.
I flew states away to be with her, and she walked out of a room I was in, and that was how we said goodbye that day. I lived a pretty gaslit existence, and so I wasn't always aware of the abuse I lived in. It's only been the last decade or so that I have learned about myself and what is right and normal. Sorry.
It's okay.
You do not have to apologize for being a human being.
For your personal peace and for you to find forgiveness, do you think that that requires a mended relationship with your mom?
I love that question. Daniel, so far, the feedback he's giving is very much in alignment with the things that would matter the most to me if I were to be talking with this person, because it is possible sometimes to get to that point of acceptance, peace, forgiveness without necessarily talking or engaging with the person who is your abuser. And how do I know this? Because a lot of times the people who have hurt us, maybe they're not even living, right? And in those situations, a conversation is not even possible, but it is still possible for us to do the work to get to a place of peace and understanding regarding that situation without even having the conversation. So I love that he's basically asking her, do you believe those two things have to happen? Like, in order for you to forgive her, does the relationship have to be mended? Because it is possible for those two things to be completely separate.
With her diagnosis, it's clear to me that she's willing to die with this. And that is so extreme to me. She has asked me questions like, well, think of his children. She's befriended his ex-wife, who is the wife he was married to when all of this happened. And it feels really extreme. It feels bad to know that my mother is suffering and to not be able to comfort her in the way that I wish But in order to do that, it really feels like I'm letting myself down. And I'm the only one that's going to stand up for myself. There's nobody else. And so to appease her death so she can have a peaceful death when my life has been so tumultuous, I can't.
So here we see some more movement, people moving from yes to no now. Again, I feel this group is for the most part trying to assess where this mystery person is in their journey of trying to figure out the best thing to do or the right thing to do. When originally they were describing a feeling of running out of time, they're like, okay, well, if that's how you're feeling, do something about it. But then now as they're talking through it and they're getting to the point of saying that it's difficult for me to think about providing her with peace when I'm still living with so much chaos emotionally, they're like, well, hey, you don't owe her that, right? If this is something for you, then do it for yourself. But if this is something for her, you do not owe her that.
Your mother doesn't deserve to have that peace. And I feel like mending that relationship is gonna give her peace, and you're not gonna have that because you've had a traumatic life.
I totally understand the boundaries. I agree with all of your points, but this is your mother. Things don't just go away over time. I think that's the biggest lie. Time heals things. No, it does not. You addressing your things heals things. And so you have an opportunity to do that, and she doesn't have much time left to.
I want to address that idea of time heals things. I think it's a balance. I think as you move from a situation, it does become less acute. You know, you have some stressor that you find out about with the person you care about or a project you cared about, and you're up at night, you can't sleep. You have all of these stresses that are very, very acute. If you use that as an opportunity to recognize, A, I'm stressed, B, I need support, you can work through those things where time is of the essence, so that this thing doesn't embed itself into your body and your muscle memory, but also you did have to do the work of first admitting that it was bothering you and talking to the people that you care about and that you trust so that you can get the emotional support that you need. And again, that's not always gonna be that you need someone to give you the right answer. Sometimes you just need someone to say, it completely makes sense that you would feel that way.
Sorry to kind of counteract the whole thing where it's like, it's your mom, like blood only goes so far. And her being blood related to you doesn't excuse everything that she's done.
I kind of disagree a little bit. I think it definitely doesn't excuse. If she doesn't want to take accountability, that's on her, right? That's not your problem anymore. But for your own sake and for your own peace of mind, I think it's really important that you really give it your all, especially in this crucial time that you have.
Obviously, I don't believe that there is a right or wrong answer here. But again, the choice you have to make has to align with your personal values. What we're looking at right here is a potential identity crisis. She's trying to figure out how important is it to her to have a relationship with her mother that is at least pleasant before her mother passes away. This is not for her mom, right? Because her mom only has so much time. This is for her. We're split down the middle, as split as you could get with a group of 7. And we're looking at people who have different value sets. For some people, if it's a family member, especially your mother, you need to fix it. And for other people, they're like, hey, blood is not always thicker than water. Sometimes found family is more significant, more important than the family you were born into. Neither group is wrong. It's all about a difference in values, and this person is trying to understand what her personal values are when it comes to this specific situation.
I was wondering, what do you need in this moment to feel like safe and secure?
I don't know. I would like validation. I would like to feel loved. I would like to feel a part of something.
I just want to say that if we were to make a parallel between this mystery person and their mother, that those 3 things, I would like to feel validated, I would like to feel loved, I would like to feel like a part of something, are 3 of the core reasons that people end up in like cult-like organizations, right? They want to feel like they belong. They want to feel like they have a shared purpose and goal with another set of people. You know, they want to feel like they can depend on people. And it's interesting because I'm curious about what her mother's trauma history looks like and what things she may have experienced that led her into that cult and informed the choices that she made that further traumatized her daughter.
I feel like I've been chosen over and that I am not worth even my mother's care or concern. So finding community with that on my back has been a very big deal.
So we really are, again, looking at an identity crisis because she's not just looking at her mother's actions, she's internalizing those actions as a testament as to what she's worthy of. And so she says she wants to belong, but when I have clients in a situation like this, when they have a history like this, they could be, for example, in a really healthy friendship. And that friend might try to pour love into them and they're very resistant to receiving that love because they're so uncomfortable with the idea of expecting a person to love them well and then later on being disappointed by them. They have the expectation that they will be abandoned, rejected, disappointed by people who claim that they love them. So this is her trying to make sense of what she experienced, but I think is really interesting that the narrative is that she was not worth those things and not just that her mother couldn't provide them to her.
It just seems like it's at a point where she's tried everything.
Her mother must have value because she wouldn't be doing all this.
True.
I think she's actually found her peace. If her mom wasn't sick, I don't think she would be in this situation right now. The diagnosis brought up a lot of pent up anger inside of her that she now wants to put out.
If her mother dies and looks back and says, I wish I did this, I wish I did that, I think that's gonna end up eating her even worse.
The ground zero should be, what does she want?
Yeah, exactly. What does she want? What does she need?
Once again, Daniel's saying what I'm thinking. Ground zero. What does she want? It's not about figuring out what's right and what's wrong, convincing her to make a choice, because anytime we're doing that, again, we're just projecting our own experiences. You know, you have the person who says, hey, I lost my mom to cancer, but we were able in those final years to create a beautiful relationship. That is the experience that, of course, she's pulling on when she's providing advice to this mystery person. It's hard, but you have to avoid doing that.
We all agree that it is better to regret doing something than not doing something. You never know what it's like when someone's on their deathbed. And so we just feel like keeping the door open is better than keeping the door closed.
We were listening to what you stated that you wanted. You wanted to feel loved and you wanted validation. You can achieve those things without mending the relationship through support systems, finding therapy, finding a community. You have the love from your family on your side. So for that reason, we said you should not mend it.
Have you made your decision?
Yes.
Like you guys said, I can offer myself the things that I need moving forward. And mending the relationship takes a lot of energy and takes me back to a lot of places that I've already moved through. Both boxes really suck for me. And I like the possibilities in this box more.
On the show, that was the first time I've ever talked about it. I came away feeling like maybe I had a powerless attitude towards it, and it didn't have to be that way. You know, I have spoken to pretty much everyone now about this situation. So I decided to get in contact with law enforcement and have a conversation with the detective, just going over what happened to me.
Was there any part of you that wanted to reach out to your mom when you did reach out to law enforcement?
It's a lot harder to do when interacting in real time. I find myself more thinking of writing her letters to just know that I'm expressing myself. And so I'm hoping that will serve for some kind of olive branch. You know, since opening up that dialogue with the jury, I have found myself much more open to finding a middle ground.
What I love about this video is that it was not about whether or not it was right to not make peace with her mother before her mother passed away, right? That is the idea that we came into. That's the click reason why we clicked on this video. But what this video was really about was being confident in making your own decision and knowing that you thought through all the possibilities of both sides. Like she said, both boxes suck. There are pros and cons to talking with her mom and not talking with her mom. But in the end, what it is that she really wanted to do for herself was advocate for herself. So a conversation with her mom was really not going to give her what she needed for peace. What she needed was justice. So she contacted law enforcement. She's advocating for herself and protecting herself in a way that her mother never did. So this was really a beautiful video. I love how it was handled with care. I think every person made valid points, and in the end, this person was able to make her own decision about what made the most sense with her value set. There will be many times in our lives that we will come to a crossroads where there are multiple decisions that could be made and there are arguments that can be made on every side. The thing that you want to focus on is really paying attention to yourself, your personal convictions, your value set, which sometimes we have competing value sets, and figuring out what makes the most sense for you, what you prioritize the most. How do you do that? Obviously, you can do that with a therapist because therapists are trained to help you work things out for yourself. I have clients that come to me and they want me to fix their life. Listen, that is not my job. My job is to help you understand the things that are not working in your life and make your own choices about what makes sense to you to address those things. And so I think that this was kind of an expedited process for doing that because she was able to get the perspective of so many different people. But the beauty in this experiment is that she truly thought through all sides. So if you're in a situation like that, I encourage you to talk with people that you trust, people that you feel truly care about your well-being, people that are not speaking on behalf of their own personal agendas or the agendas of maybe joint organizations, anything like that that you both might be involved in. It's important for you to have a space to just process your own thoughts because through journaling, writing letters, having open, authentic conversations with friends, family, therapists, you can come to your own decision where you feel confident that you made a choice based on all the information that you had about this situation. Because this video deals with the topic of abuse, we want to encourage you to get the support that you need by going to the domestic violence hotline at www.thehotline.org. We'll also provide links in the description box below for you to find your own therapist. If you found this video helpful, please like this video and be sure to subscribe to Healthline's YouTube channel for more content like this. Thanks for watching.